Hey YouTube, welcome back. In today's video, I am going to be talking about my parental memories. After interacting with one of you viewers out there, I was asked if I would be willing to do a video on parental memories, and that is a fantastic idea, so that's what we're going to do today. But before we get started, I'd like to take a moment to ask you to please hit the like button and subscribe to this channel. Now, I was planning on doing this video yesterday, but we got some company, so I didn't get a chance to do it. So, as I've been falling asleep the last couple of nights, I'm like thinking about this, and I have all these things that I want to say. And with my slipped disc hitting nerve, or with my carpal tunnel, whatever it is, the doctors can't figure it out. I communicate better in writing, so I like to type out my script and then kind of read it, and it comes out clearer like that. So when I just go off the cuff, sometimes I forget to say something, or you'll get a lot of e da So just bear with me on that because I am just going off the top of my head. And there will be more videos like this with parental memories that come in the future because there's just a lot of things that I want to say about that I don't may not remember in this one, but I'm going to try to do my best. Also, I don't have access or the ability to be able to, a lot of people edit their videos and splice it, and so you'll see them like when they're doing a video go as the screen, and I'm not criticizing that at all. I'm just saying I wish I could be able to do that because, then I could say, oh yeah, I want to say this, and then, kind of splice it all together to make one video be more complete. So let's just uh, let's just get started. So, I actually have my dad right here with me, and I want to introduce you to him. This is my dad. And I want to be completely honest in this video, and I just want to say that I love both of my parents, and I miss my dad very, very much. In fact, when he died, he we knew he had cancer. We kind of knew, but when he died, I still wasn't quite ready, and it's coming on 6 years that he hasn't been here, and I still have him with me because I'm not quite ready to let him go yet. But at a certain point, I do want to get him into the cemetery so that he could be with his mom and dad. I think that would have been his wishes. In fact, I know that it was, but I just haven't. I love him. I love him very much, so I still have him with me here today. And this is an actual picture. I'm the kid in the basket. And of course, that is my dad on the bicycle. So, it all happened in once upon a time in the city in which I live today. Birth happened. My mom was told that my mom had a lot of miscarriages before I was born. I am an only child, and so I don't have siblings. And sometimes I wish I had a good sibling. So there are pros and cons to anything. But I do get a little bit when I see two siblings that don't get along with each other, and I get sad because I don't have that, and I think when brother and sister can get along and they work with each other and help each other and get along, I think that's just really neat, and I would like to have that. But there are benefits also to being an only child. So my mom had been pregnant several times before me, and it always ended up in miscarriages. And then when she got pregnant with me, so she was a high risk pregnancy, they did have to cut me out early because I ended up with the umbilical cord wrapped around my neck. And so they did a C-section, and I was in the hospital for like 40 days in an incubator for a period of time. So I was tiny, 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 and they really weren't even expecting me to survive. But here I am. And so my mom calls me her miracle baby. And so I had a lot of attention from both parents, which is good, because I am autistic, and we didn't know that until I was about 44 years old. But it explains a lot of the struggles that I had growing up. So when I was born, we were a very happy family. My dad took pictures of everything, and so there's just a lot of photos. And so um, my mom was very protective of me. My dad was also. I used to love it when he would throw me up in the air. He would drive me like in the picture. I would drive around in the basket, and my dad was kind of rough with me. The basket would tip over and everything like that, and I liked to get dirty. I liked to play. Me and my dad used to play soccer, and so we were a very, very happy family as I was growing up. And of course, I told you my My Little Pony story before when I picked out a toy that just happened to be My Little Pony, and my dad said no, that's for girls. But my mom said that's ridiculous. Of course, he can have it. And so I drove home playing with My Little Pony in the car on the way home. And like, yes. And so um, my mom, I did have a lot of struggles starting from the very first day of kindergarten, or even spending the night at a friend's house was difficult for me. I'd be calling because I wanted to go home. I was used to sleeping in my own bed. And so, my mom would go into the classrooms and volunteer and help out a lot. And I had both my parents. We were a loving family. My parents were married for 13 years before they got a divorce. And they were married before I was born. And my dad worked for the federal government as an equal employment opportunity investigator. So he investigated cases of discrimination in the workplace. And he did that before I was born. And the only reason he really retired 5 years before he passed away is because he got cancer and he was on chemotherapy and and was not feeling good. My dad was a workaholic, so he was gone often at work, worked late, worked weekends. He was a pretty extreme workaholic. So when we were young, we would go to, like, say, we would go to a minor league baseball game. And my dad, I often wonder if he was. I know, I know my dad had ADHD. The man could not sit still. But sometimes I wonder if he also had autism because he had repetitive behaviors, such as one time when he was doing a seminar on discrimination, and he wore a suit and a tie. He was one of the speakers, and his friend came up to him, and he was on a business trip out of town, doing that seminar, and I was like, "Hey, you look great, man. Your speech was great and everything, but hey, man, that watch you got, you need a better watch, man." And my dad looks down and he sees his old beat up Timex that he wore every day and used to mow the lawn and everything else, and it was all banged up. So my dad went back to his hotel room that night and actually was just flipping through the channels, and he discovered the Home Shopping Network, or QVC, something like that, and he bought his first watch. Um, and over the course of the next, it became a repetitive behavior to where he just had all of these Home Shopping Network watches. And so you'll see me wearing watches a bunch of times that look like they're expensive watches, and they're really nice watches. They have Swiss, many of them have Swiss movements. Some of them are automatics and stuff, but they don't have like a whole lot of resale value because they were so mass produced. They're just fun. And so when my dad got cancer, I sold a lot of them to try to recoup some of his money, which he found out that these were not investments. And people would collect them and stuff. So my dad had repetitive behaviors with shopping, and whether it was cars from auction or watches, stuff like that. My dad was always more, he had a problem with commitment. My mom would like to make plans, like, say, for an example, a family vacation. We're going to go on a family vacation this. Well, we knew that we were going to maybe somewhere like Disneyland or something. We knew what the dates were, but even so far as the night before, my dad, well, we're probably going, but we don't know. We'll just have to see. I'm not too sure. And he just couldn't sit still. So when we would go to a minor league baseball game, my mom would be there watching the game, but my dad would get up constantly and just walk around, go to the snack bar, go to the bathroom, just walk, walk, walk. walk back and forth, and he'd take me with us. So we spent more time just walking around the stadium than we did actually playing baseball game. So so I had access to both of my parents. They both loved me, gave me all the attention that I needed. We were a happy family. And then when they got a divorce, the reason why they got a divorce is because my dad got caught in an adulterous affair with one of his secretaries and refused to break off the relationship and told my mom, I don't know what to do. I love you both. And my mom was like, okay, that's not going to work, buddy. And so they got a divorce. And so my dad spent a lot of time with me. He would come and he would pick me up. And this was a crucial time of development in my life. And being autistic and ADHD, I had special needs. And so I still got the attention that I needed from my dad, but I ended up becoming, he would come and pick me up on his weekend with me. My mom had, it was joint custody, but I lived with my mom. Um, they had bought in a house about 2 years before they got a divorce. And so, my dad would start, whispering in my ear. He would talk bad things about my mom to me, which I never liked, but I loved my dad and I was too young to really, I never liked that. I didn't appreciate it, but I loved being with my dad and I loved spending time with him. And he would tell me, well, Michael, that house is half yours. And he acted like he paid, but see, there was a loan on the house. So my mom, when they got a divorce, she went back to college, finished up her degree so that she could become a special ed teacher because she didn't want him to support her. My mom has always been very, very independent and even left her home at an early age um, because of controlling parents. So my mom was very independent. She didn't want the alimony, so she went back to college, finished it so that she could get a career of her own and support us. So my dad didn't exactly give me half of the house as he tried to tell me. What he did was she basically took over the mortgage and paid off the house herself. So there were some lies in there. And so my dad would come to pick me up, and it turned around from, though I was with my dad, though I enjoyed being with my dad, his girlfriend had 2 kids. And so he would basically come pick me up, and I would get in the car, and we would go to their house, over to his girlfriend's house. And though I was with my dad, he really focused on helping her raise them. So we went to their self-defense classes, their baseball games, their activities that we did. And though I was there, I was just sitting there with my dad while we were focusing on him helping raise them. And I remember at one point I asked my dad, I was like, I mean, there were other kids playing baseball out there, and I wanted to play baseball too. So I asked him if I could join the league. And I got some well, I'm not sure if you would like that. And it's like, no, I want to play. And well, we'll just have to see. Maybe one of these days. Not too sure. And it just never happened. So so I felt like a third wheel, basically. Though I was with him, though I was there, the focus wasn't quite on raising me anymore. The focus was on raising them. So looking back all these years, as I've been, trying to look back at my life on everything through the lens of all of the struggles that I had, were because I was autistic. Um, a lot of these, memories have come back. And me and my dad, even to the day he died, were very close. Even a week before he died, we were going up on the roof. He had really bad knees, so I would have to go onto the roof for him to look and inspect what the roofers had done. And he had a conversation with me right before he died, and he said, Michael, I made a lot of mistakes, but I just want you to know that I love you very much. And I know that he did. He made mistakes, and I know that he loved me very much. And through my 20s, I went through some, uh, I call it my terrible, terrible 20s. And my mom took me to counselors, psychologists. She took me to all the right places, and all I was ever diagnosed with was ADHD. When I was in the ninth grade, all of the struggles that I had in school became too much for me to overcome, and I was moved to a very small private Christian school. And I was there for a couple of months, and a lot of the things that I were doing were treated as behavioral issues. And it was a very strict school. And I remember one time I was, I got in trouble at school. Um, and the teacher yelled at me, and it embarrassed me. And the teacher embarrassed me in front of the whole class. And so I was angry. I took a test, and one of the questions I didn't know the answer to, so I actually wrote for the answer to the question, I don't know the damn answer. I turned in my paper, and he gave us something else to do. And about 10 minutes later, I guess, when he got to grading my paper, all of a sudden he stood up, and he comes and he grabbed me by the back of the shirt and marched me to the office. And they actually kicked me out of school. So now I had no school to go to, which actually ended up being a blessing in disguise, because I ended up in another private Christian school where this school was every age group from kindergarten to 12th grade. We were all kind of kept together, and we worked at our own pace, and the teachers were there to help us. It worked great for me. The principal and her husband were, I had this more special attention that I needed, and though we didn't know that I was autistic, they worked with me, and it was just a better environment. It worked for me. And so my mom drove me, she would drive me to school because it was across town. She would drive me to all these appointments. So she really, I feel like, invested more time with me, more time in trying to develop me into a person, and than my dad did, even though I would be with him and he would play with me. So I've always been, I don't want to say that I've been closer to my mom, but I am closer to my mom. And I think my mom has taught me more of the things that I really needed to know. My dad taught me things like he taught me how to change a tire on a car. He taught me how to jumpstart a car. He taught me to um, run the air conditioner in the car even in the winter, so that the lines don't dry out and you get leaks and stuff like that, to kind of get the fluid moving through the lines. And so, my some of the skills, the limited skills that I have in fixing stuff today, were taught by him. But I think the more um, stuff about actually, develop into who I am today, my mom definitely had more of an influence on me. To where, like, let me give an example. There's like a guy crossing the street. The difference between my mom and my dad. My mom was more compassionate. My dad was more just manly, I guess. Well, of course. But say there's a guy crossing the street, and the guy is taking a really long time to cross the street, and is kind of um, taking his time. My dad would have been like, dude, what are you doing? Get out of the way. Move. Whereas my mom was like, oh, somebody just had surgery. It's like, oh, yeah. So I developed more love and compassion and understanding and thinking things from a different angle from my mom than I did with my dad. So I do have that ability to be able to be more compassionate and look at people as individuals based on my mom's influence. So my 20s came and went. I was there. I was living. I was enjoying my life, but next thing I found, I'm 46 years old today, and I am still trying to transition into adulthood a little bit late. And so the divorce caused my relationship with my mom and my dad to be separate. And though I love both parents, there's a lot of things that my dad did that I really disagree with. And I have no doubt that he loved me, but my dad was just my dad. And I will always miss him. I miss him very much. So we were close until the day he died. And my mom and I have a relationship where, don't get me wrong, she is my mom. She is the boss of the household. But our relationship is more like brother and sister today. It's wonderful. And I actually enjoy, a lot of people kind of judge me like a mama's boy, and maybe I need to kind of venture out from my mom and do stuff like that. In all honesty, I enjoy spending time with my mother even more than I enjoy spending time with some of my friends. We have a very close bond, and my mom and I are truly best friends. And so that is my relationship with her. And so let me just see if I'm kind of stammering and stuttering a little bit. I know that there's more that I want to say. So my dad was a workaholic. My dad had repetitive behavior, mostly with hyperactivity and uh, purchasing stuff. And so, and oh, let me go back to where my dad had a lack of commitment, whereas my mom is very um, precise in the things that she does and plans, like sticking to a budget, something practical like that. My mom taught me how to build a budget and stick to it and to be frugal, whereas my dad, money would just fly through his hands. He had a very good career and he made a lot of money. And when he died, he pretty much died in a lot of debt because he was very poor at managing that money because of his repetitive behavior and what I think was the ADHD making impulsive decisions. So when my dad got cancer, he asked me to start selling some of his watches on eBay, and he would pay me a little bit of a commission for doing that. What started off with 12 watches, I would sell 12, and they just kept coming and kept coming and kept coming. He must, like I said, they don't have a whole lot of resale value, but he must have spent, I'm not exaggerating here, he must have spent $300,000 on these watches, but yet the man did not pay off his house and died broke. And these watches are fun, they're great, buy a little collection, but they were everywhere. So much so to where the ones that were not automatics that ran on a battery, how can you replace the battery on that many batteries on that many watches? So he didn't have the forethought to actually plan for something like this. So we had to remove all the batteries so that they don't start to leak and destroy the movement and stuff like that. And so I kept a small collection for myself and sold the rest and basically gave him the money so that he could um, recoup a little bit of what he had spent. My dad also knew that he had cancer. He was that he was dying. There was no will. There was a lot of unfinished business things that he left untied, such as when just a lot of things. When he died, and I thought that he didn't own his house, but I thought that I saw about $10,000 of equity in his house. And so I was like, well, let's sell it. Rather than just give it back to the bank, let's sell it, keep a little bit of equity, pay it off, finish his business. That way that's, tidied up, done. Bank's got their money, and I might be able to squeeze a little bit of equity out of it. That's great. So my mom helped me with that. And we got a realtor and everything, and we checked for liens. We did everything that, we could do. Um, but then when the house closed, we discovered something that there was, I guess, a credit judgment lien on the house that didn't show up until the house went to closing. And so when everything was all said and done, we did a lot of work, and actually, with all the money that we spent on, fixing little things and everything, I actually ended up losing some money. And now my dad did tell me, Michael, when I die, the house just goes back to the bank. But he didn't tell me why. And so his communication and telling me things that I would have needed to know and tying up loose ends, he should have known that I was smart enough to see some equity on it and try to squeeze it out. But he didn't, and he didn't tell me why it was going back to the bank. He just told me that it was. And so he just left a lot of unfinished business done and didn't communicate very well. So my mom communicates, my mom plans, my mom did practical stuff, whereas my dad was just kind of there. And so, it's just some people are very funny about the death. They pretend that it's not there, but stuff like that is really good things to plan for and communicate with your loved ones. That way, they're not left trying to finish up when when it's in your power to do so. So, you know, I'm gathering my thoughts just a little bit again. Um, I'll always miss my dad. I love him, and he did a lot of great things with his career, but the workaholism, the lack of commitment, the divorce, the trying to impress the girlfriend with raising her kids, but kind of dropping the ball on raising me. Um, my mom did more to mold me into the person that I am today than my dad. And so um, that's just the way it is. Nobody's perfect. And so there are, like the stuff with the running the air conditioner, the changing the tire. Oh, my dad taught me how to drive. That's another thing. I'm a really good driver. I'm also autistic, so I kind of like the Rain Man. I'm a really good driver. you know, just kidding. Um, when I was very little, we had a Honda Civic. It was a standard transmission. And there was this place in town called Tinnan Farms that had just been constructed, and it was a neighborhood, a very quiet neighborhood. So he would take me in the evenings because my dad was so hyper, and we would always have to go, 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 go. And he would, and this is a practical thing that my dad did before the divorce that shows that we had a happy family, and my dad was there for me and more practical before the divorce happened. He would set me on his lap, and he would work the gas pedal and the brakes and the transmission, and I would just steer the car. So I'd be sitting on my lap, and we would go like almost every day. And as I got bigger, my skills got better. It moved, and I could reach the gas pedals and stuff like that. Then it would turn to he would have me hit the clutch, and he would shift. So now I was controlling. I moved from just steering the wheel to hitting the clutch and hitting the gas while he would shift. And then eventually it moved to me actually driving the car myself with him sitting right there. So my dad did a wonderful job at teaching me how to drive over a period of years. We did this all the time. So the people that lived in the neighborhood are probably like, "Who's that car?" My dad was training me how to drive. That was a wonderful thing that my dad did for me. So it's not all good. It's not all bad. Um, I just wish that my dad would have been more honest and actually been more faithful to us. So in a way, my dad abandoned us. Even though I was with him, and even though he loved me, there was an emotional abandonment. that he could have helped to develop me better. So my who I am today is definitely more a product of my mother than my dad. And so I think that that's about all that I'm going to say for this video. Not because there's not more to say or not more that I want to say, but it's all that I can pull up from my brain right now. And since I don't have the ability to splice and edit videos, I can't record a few things as I remember. Even when I'm having a conversation with people, I'll often, a lot of people like to have a conversation about something, and then the conversation shifts and moves on to something else, and they're like, "Yep, that's done." It's not uncommon for me to come back days, weeks, months later because as an autistic person, I think about conversations and things long gone after they happened. Did I do the right thing? Did I say the right thing? Well, when they said that, what did they mean like that? I analyze conversations long after they happen, so it's not uncommon for me to actually come up to somebody a week or 2 minutes later. Oh, remember that conversation that we were having? Well, I thought of something else. And they're like, sometimes it annoys people, especially if they disagreed with me on something, and it's like, oh, I should have said this or I should have said that. I'll come back and say it later. So sometimes they get annoyed at me because it's not uncommon for me to do that. So the same with getting things out of my memory in a video like this. So that is just a tiny little glimpse of my parental memories that I have. And so I really, really thank you for watching. In the future, there will definitely be more videos of more parental memories that I have. Thank you for watching. Please hit the like button. Subscribe to this channel, and I hope to see you in the next video. Oh, one more thing that I did want to say, and I totally understand. I don't want to embarrass anybody. So, but I'm really bad at computers myself, so I get it. But I just want to when I say hit the like button, somebody accidentally hit the wrong button. So I just wanted to let you know, please be sure to hit the like button. Just kidding. Have a great day, people.